The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but Dr. Hyundai didn't notice. His eyes were locked on the screen showing readings that made no sense. The quantum scanner was picking up signals from the ancient stellar debris field, but these weren't normal signals. They were too organized, too perfect. "Mira, come look at this," he called to his colleague across the research station. Dr. Park Mira walked over, her footsteps echoing in the quiet lab. The Kepler research station orbited a dying red giant star, far from any major shipping lanes. It was the perfect place for deep space research, but also the perfect place to go crazy from isolation. "What's got you so excited?" she asked, looking at the display. Her expression changed when she saw the data. "That can't be right." "That's what I thought too. I've run the scans 3 times. Same result every time." The readings showed quantum resonance patterns in the stellar debris, but these patterns were artificial, clearly made by some kind of technology. The problem was that the debris field was ancient, formed when the star system was young. According to everything they knew about galactic history, no intelligent life existed back then. "Equipment malfunction," Mira said, but her voice lacked confidence. "Has to be." Hyundai shook his head. "I checked all the instruments. They're working. Fine. Look at this pattern here." He pointed to a section of the data. "This is a mathematical sequence. Prime numbers arranged in a spiral pattern. No natural process creates something like this." Mira pulled up a chair and sat down. She was the senior researcher on the station, responsible for validating all discoveries before they were reported to Earth. "How old is this debris field?" "About 4 million years old, give or take a few thousand." "That's impossible. The oldest known civilization is the Altarians, and they only reached space travel 2 million years ago. Before that, there's no evidence of any advanced technology in this part of the galaxy." Hyundai highlighted another section of the data. "Look at this frequency signature. It's not random stellar radiation. Someone or something was transmitting a signal, and it got trapped in the quantum structure of the debris when the original planets were destroyed." Commander Lee Tay entered the lab at that moment. He was the station's military liaison, responsible for security and communications with Earth Command. "I heard shouting. Is everything okay?" "We found something," Hyundai said. "Something that shouldn't exist." Lee Tay looked at the screen. He wasn't a scientist, but he could read basic data displays. "What am I looking at?" "Evidence of advanced technology from 4 million years ago," Mira said. "At least that's what Dr. Han claims." "Claims?" Hyundai stood up, frustrated. "The data is right there." Lee Tay studied the readings more carefully. His military training made him suspicious of anything unusual. Could this be a trap? Some kind of fake signal planted by hostile aliens? "I thought of that," Hyundai said. "But look at this." He brought up a new display. "I ran the quantum signature through our DNA database. It's a long shot, but I wanted to check if there were any biological markers in the signal." The new display showed a genetic pattern. It was complex, clearly from an advanced life form, but there was something familiar about it. "This looks like human DNA," Mira said quietly. "Not exactly like human DNA," Hyundai corrected, "but close. Very close, like it's from the same basic genetic family but older, much older." Lee Tay felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you saying humans existed 4 million years ago?" "I'm saying something very much like humans existed 4 million years ago, and they had technology advanced enough to leave quantum signatures in stellar debris." Mira ran her hands through her hair. This changes everything we know about galactic history. If there were advanced humans millions of years ago, where did they go? Why is there no record of them? Maybe there is a record, Hyundai said. Maybe we just never knew where to look. He pulled up a star chart showing the local region of the galaxy. I've been thinking about this all day. What if these aren't random signals? What if they're pointing somewhere? The quantum signatures, when mapped out, formed a pattern. They didn't point to random locations in space. They pointed toward Earth's solar system. That's our home system, Li Tay said unnecessarily. The signals are coming from here, but they're pointing there, Hyundai explained, like a trail of breadcrumbs leading back to Earth. Mira stood up and paced around the lab. Let me understand this. You're suggesting that advanced humans existed millions of years ago, they had technology we can barely imagine, and they left signals pointing back to Earth? I'm not suggesting anything, Hyundai said. I'm just reporting what the data shows. Li Tay activated his communication console. I need to report this to Earth Command immediately. Wait, Mira said. We need to be careful about this. If we're wrong, we'll look like fools. If we're right, this could cause panic. Panic? Li Tay asked. Think about it. Humanity just joined the Galactic Consortium 50 years ago. We're still considered the new kids on the block. If we suddenly claim that we're actually the descendants of some ancient super-civilization, how do you think the other species will react? Hyundai had been so focused on the scientific discovery that he hadn't considered the political implications. You think they'll see it as a threat? I think they'll see it as humans trying to claim special status in the galaxy, Mira said. Some species already think we're too aggressive, too expansionist. This could make things much worse. Li Tay thought about it. On the other hand, if this is real, Earth Command needs to know. This isn't just a scientific discovery. It could be a security issue. How so? Hyundai asked. If there were advanced humans millions of years ago and they disappeared, something made them disappear. That something might still be out there. The lab fell silent as they all considered the implications. Hyundai looked back at his data. The quantum signatures were still there, still pointing toward Earth. They weren't going away just because the discovery was inconvenient. There's something else, he said quietly. I've been analyzing the mathematical patterns in the signals. They're not just random sequences. They're coordinates. Coordinates to where? Mira asked. Earth's moon. Specifically the far side of the moon. The signals are pointing to a location that we've never fully explored. Li Tay made his decision. I'm contacting Earth Command. This is too big to keep to ourselves. As he began typing his report, Mira looked at Hyundai. Are you absolutely certain about this data? Hyundai nodded. I've checked it 100 times. The signals are real, they're artificial, and they're very old. Someone wanted us to find them. Or something wanted us to find them, Li Tay said from his console. No, Hyundai said with growing certainty. Not something. Someone like us. The genetic markers are too close to human to be coincidence. Whatever created these signals, they were human. Or at least, they were our ancestors. Mira sat back down, overwhelmed by the implications. If you're right, then humanity isn't new to the galaxy at all. We're coming home. The transmission to Earth Command went out an hour later. Within 6 hours, they received orders to maintain their position and continue monitoring the signals. A special investigation team was being assembled on Earth. As Hyundai watched the data streams continue to flow across his screen, he couldn't shake the feeling that they had just opened a door that had been closed for millions of years. Whatever lay behind that door, humanity was about to rediscover its true place in the galaxy. The ancient signals continued their patient broadcast, as they had for 4 million years, waiting for their descendants to finally come home. The lunar surface looked the same as it had for millions of years, but Dr. Kim Sol knew that was about to change. Her excavation team had been working for 3 weeks, following the coordinates discovered by the Kepler research station. The far side of the moon was the perfect place to hide something. No one from Earth could see what happened here. "We're at 15 meters depth," called out her assistant, checking the drilling equipment. Still nothing but regolith and rock. Kim Sol wiped sweat from her forehead inside her environmental suit. The work was hard, even in the moon's low gravity. "Keep going." The coordinates were very specific. Captain Yoon Bin watched from a safe distance with his security team. He didn't like excavations. Too many things could go wrong when you started digging into unknown sites. His job was to keep everyone safe, and that meant being ready for anything. "Dr. Kim," one of the diggers called out, "I think we found something." Kim Sol hurried to the excavation site. At the bottom of the pit, something smooth and dark was visible under the lunar dust. It wasn't rock. It wasn't metal either, at least not any metal she recognized. "Clear it off carefully," she ordered. "Document everything." As they brushed away the dust, more of the object became visible. It was clearly artificial, with smooth curves and geometric patterns. The material looked like black crystal, but it seemed to have depth, like looking into dark water. "How big is this thing?" Yoon Bin asked, climbing down into the pit. "We've only exposed about 2 square meters," Kim Sol said. "But the ground-penetrating radar suggests it's much larger, maybe the size of a city block." Dr. Choi Jun, the team's linguist and cultural specialist, knelt beside the exposed surface. "These patterns aren't random," he said. "They look like writing, but not like any human writing system I've ever seen." Kim Sol ran her gloved hand over the surface. It was perfectly smooth, without any tool marks or signs of weathering. "This has been buried here for millions of years, but it looks like it was made yesterday." "Could it be alien?" Yoon Bin asked. "The quantum signatures that led us here were human-related," Kim Sol reminded him, "but this doesn't look like anything humans could have built even today." As they continued clearing the surface, they found what looked like a seam or joint in the crystal material. Choi Jun traced it with his finger. "This might be an entrance." "An entrance to what?" Yoon Bin asked. "Only one way to find out," Kim Sol said. She activated her scanner and ran it over the seam. The results made her step back in surprise. "The scanner is picking up hollow spaces underneath. This isn't just a buried object. It's a structure. A big one." They worked through the lunar day and into the long night, using artificial lights to continue the excavation. Slowly, more of the structure became visible. It was clearly a building of some kind, with what looked like corridors and rooms inside. "Dr. Kim," one of her team called, out. "You need to see this." She hurried to where they were working. They had found what was unmistakably a door. It was the same black crystal material, but it had clear geometric patterns that suggested it could open. "Don't touch anything," Yoon Bin warned. "We don't know what kind of security systems this place might have." Choi Jun was studying the patterns around the door. "These symbols are definitely a language," he said. "They're not like any ancient human language, but they have similarities. The mathematical relationships are familiar." Kim Sol set up a portable workstation next to the door. I'm going to scan it with everything we have. Maybe we can figure out how to open it safely. The scans revealed complex internal mechanisms, clearly technological, but operating on principles they didn't understand. But there was something else that made Kim Sol's heart race. The scanner is detecting biological recognition systems, she said. This door is designed to recognize genetic patterns. Alien genetics? Yun Bin asked. I don't think so. Kim Sol looked at her readings again. The genetic patterns it's looking for are very close to human. Almost exactly human, but with some differences. Choi Jun stood up from where he had been studying the symbols. What if it's not looking for modern human genetics? What if it's looking for the genetics of whoever built this place? Kim Sol thought about the quantum signatures that had led them here. The DNA patterns had been human-like but older, more primitive in some ways but also more complex in others. There's only one way to test this theory, she said. Yun Bin stepped forward. No, absolutely not. We're not having anyone touch an unknown alien device. It's not alien, Kim Sol said. I'm more and more convinced that this was built by humans. Ancient humans, but humans nonetheless. She walked to the door before Yun Bin could stop her. The moment her gloved hand touched the surface, the black crystal began to glow with soft blue light. The symbols around the door lit up in sequence, and with a sound like distant thunder, the door began to open. Everyone back! Yun Bin shouted. But Kim Sol was transfixed by what she was seeing. Beyond the door was a corridor that stretched into the distance. The walls were the same black crystal material, but they were covered with moving patterns of light. The air that flowed out was clean and breathable, somehow maintained after millions of years. Impossible, Choi Jun whispered. The lights are turning on, one of the excavation team pointed out. As they watched, illumination spread down the corridor like a wave, revealing the true scale of the structure they had found. Kim Sol checked her atmospheric scanner. The air inside is safe. Temperature is perfect for humans. It's like this place has been waiting for us. Yun Bin was torn between his duty to keep everyone safe and his curiosity about what they had found. We need to contact Earth before we go any further. We also need to secure the site, Kim Sol pointed out. If we leave now, we might not be able to get back in. The door might close and not open again. They spent several hours setting up communication, equipment and security sensors around the entrance. When Earth Command finally responded to their reports, the orders were clear: explore carefully, document everything, and maintain constant communication. The first team to enter the structure consisted of Kim Sol, Choi Jun, and two of Yun Bin's security specialists. They carried every scanner and recording device they could manage in the low gravity. The corridor led to a large chamber filled with what could only be described as technology. But it was unlike any technology they had ever seen. Smooth, crystalline. Structures rose from the floor like trees, connected by flowing patterns of light. In the center of the room was something that looked like a control console. This is a command center, Kim Sol said with certainty. But for what? Choi Jun was examining symbols on the walls. These aren't just decorative. They're instructions or maybe a history. If I'm reading this correctly, this place is some kind of repository. A repository for what? Yun Bin's voice came through their communicators from outside. Information, Choi Jun said. Massive amounts of information, and I think it's all about space. Look at these symbols here. They're star charts. Kim Sol approached the central console. Like the door, it began to respond to her presence. Holographic displays appeared in the air around them, showing three-dimensional maps of the galaxy. But these weren't maps of the galaxy as they knew it. These maps showed human settlements on hundreds of worlds, connected by travel routes and communication networks. The dates, when they could decipher them, went back over 4 million years. "This can't be real," Kim Sol said. But the evidence was right in front of her. "It's real," Choi Jun said quietly. "We weren't the first humans in space. We were just the first humans to forget that we had already been here." The implications hit them all at once. Humanity hadn't evolved on Earth and then reached for the stars. They had fallen from the stars and climbed back up to them. This repository was proof that their ancestors had once ruled a galactic empire, and somehow it had all been lost to time. As they explored deeper into the facility, they found more chambers filled with preserved technology and information. It was a treasure trove of knowledge that would take years to fully understand. But in the deepest chamber, they found something that changed everything. A communication array that was still active, still connected to other sites across the galaxy. And according to the displays, those sites were beginning to wake up. The excavation had triggered something that had been dormant for millions of years. Across the galaxy, ancient human facilities were coming back to life, and they were all sending the same message. The wait was over. It was time to come home. The holographic figure that appeared in the center of the lunar repository looked human, but not quite like any human they had ever seen. The person was tall and elegant, with features that seemed somehow refined beyond what natural evolution would produce. When the figure spoke, the words were in a language none of them recognized, but somehow they could understand the meaning. "Greetings, young cousins," the hologram said. "If you are receiving this message, then you have found your way back to the stars. We have been waiting for you." Dr. Kim Sol, Dr. Choi Jun, and Captain Yoon Bin stood frozen in the chamber, watching as more holographic figures appeared around them. Each one was clearly human, but like the first, they seemed somehow more than human. "Who are you?" Kim Sol whispered. The primary hologram turned toward her, as if it could hear her question. "We are your ancestors, your predecessors. We are what you call the elder humans, though we never called ourselves that. To us, you are the new humans, the second wave, the children of the return." Choi Jun activated his recording equipment, though his hands were shaking. "This is impossible. These recordings can't be interactive." "These are not recordings," the hologram explained. "We are speaking to you across time through quantum consciousness transfer. We have been waiting in deep stasis for 4 million years. For this moment." Another holographic figure stepped forward. This one appeared to be a woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. "I am Nari, Chief Engineer of the Third Human Empire. The facility you have activated is one of many we left throughout the galaxy as waypoints for your return." "Our return?" Yoon Bin asked. "We never left anywhere. We evolved on Earth." "No," the first hologram said gently. "You were placed on Earth. We placed you there along with the genetic patterns needed to eventually redevelop. Space travel and find your way back to us." Kim Sol felt her worldview crashing down around her. "You're saying humans didn't evolve naturally on Earth?" "Not exactly," Nari explained. "You are natural evolution, but guided evolution. When our empire fell, we knew that we needed a backup plan. We selected Earth as a safe world where humanity could develop again, free from the influences that had destroyed our civilization. The chamber around them began to change, the walls displaying images of vast cities among the stars, fleets of ships that dwarfed anything in the current galaxy, and humans living on worlds that were now considered uninhabitable. "What happened to your empire?" Choi Jun asked. The primary hologram's expression grew sad. "We became too powerful, too confident. We thought we had conquered the galaxy, but we had only conquered the easy parts. There are things in the dark spaces between galaxies that we were not prepared to face." "Things?" Yoon Bin asked, his military instincts making him focus on potential threats. "Entities that consume not just matter and energy, but reality itself," Nari said. "They are drawn to large concentrations of conscious beings. Our empire had grown so large that we attracted their attention. Images appeared showing battles between human fleets and something that seemed to twist space itself. The humans were losing badly. We had two choices," the primary hologram continued. "Fight and lose everything, or sacrifice our empire to save the galaxy. We chose sacrifice." "How?" Kim Sol asked. "We scattered ourselves across the galaxy and went into deep stasis, making our civilization appear to have collapsed naturally. The entities found nothing to consume and moved on, but we left safeguards, waiting for the day when humanity would be ready to face the real threats to galactic civilization." The chamber's displays changed again, showing star maps with hundreds of worlds marked with human symbols. "All of these worlds have stasis facilities," Nari explained. "As you activated this repository, awakening signals were sent to all of them. Our people are beginning to wake up." Yoon Bin was trying to process the military implications. "How many of you are there?" "Millions," the primary hologram said. "Not as many as there once were, but enough to help you face what is coming." "What's coming?" Kim Sol asked, though she was afraid of the answer. "The entities we fled from have finished consuming the galaxy they moved to," Nari said. "They are returning, and this time they will find a galaxy full of young civilizations. Without guidance, those civilizations will fall just as we did. Holographic figures began to fade as the message system prepared to shut down. "The awakening process will take time," the primary hologram said. "But soon, representatives of the elder humans will make contact with your governments. Be ready. Wait," Choi Jun called out. "How will we recognize you? How will we know you're really who you say you are?" The hologram smiled. "You will know us because we will know you. Every human carries genetic markers that we place there. We are family, separated by time but not by blood." As the holograms disappeared, the chamber fell silent except for the hum of ancient machinery. The three humans stood in the darkness, trying to understand what they had just learned. "This changes everything," Kim Sol said finally. "Everything," Choi Jun agreed. "Human history, galactic history, our place in the universe. None of it is what we thought." Yoon Bin activated his communicator. "Base, this is Yoon Bin. We need immediate contact with Earth Command. Priority Alpha." As they made their way back, through the repository toward the lunar surface, each of them was lost in thought. Humanity wasn't a young species reaching for the stars. They were an old species returning home. Above them, on the lunar surface, their equipment was already detecting new signals from across the galaxy. Ancient human facilities were activating one by one as their occupants emerged from millions of years of sleep. Dr. Park Mira received the first reports at the Kepler Research Station. The quantum signatures they had been tracking were multiplying, appearing in star systems throughout the local galactic region. Whatever they had awakened was spreading. "Hyundai," she called to her colleague. "You need to see this." Dr. Hyundai looked at the new readings and felt his heart rate increase. These aren't random activations. They're following a pattern, like a network coming online. A network of what? I think we're about to find out. On Earth, emergency sessions were being called in every major government. The reports from the lunar excavation were being classified at the highest levels, but word was beginning to leak out that something significant had been discovered. In the Galactic Consortium headquarters on Centauri Prime, alien diplomats were beginning to receive reports of unusual activity in human space. Old sensors were detecting energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. Back in the lunar repository, the communication array that had been dormant for 4 million years was now fully active. Signals were being sent and received from dozens of worlds, carrying messages in the ancient human language that the repository's computers could now translate. The messages all said the same thing. The children have found their way home. Begin the awakening. Prepare for the return. Kim Sol, Choi Jun, and Yoon Bin emerged from the repository to find their base camp in chaos. Communication equipment was registering signals from across the galaxy, and Earth Command was demanding immediate reports on everything they had found. "What do we tell them?" Choi Jun asked. Kim Sol looked up at the stars, which suddenly seemed much more familiar than they had hours before. "We tell them the truth. Humanity is about to remember who we really are." The awakening had begun, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The elder humans were returning, and they were bringing with them the knowledge and power to face threats that the galaxy had never imagined. But first, they had to reunite with their descendants and teach them that being human meant much more than anyone had ever realized. Admiral Kang Wu opened his eyes for the first time in 4 million years. The stasis chamber around him was dissolving, its crystalline walls turning to harmless vapor as the awakening sequence completed. His body felt strange at first, but the advanced preservation technology had done its job perfectly. He was exactly as he had been when he entered the chamber. Around him, hundreds of other chambers were opening. His crew, his scientists, his engineers, all returning to life as the signal from distant Earth's moon reached their hidden facility on the world they had once called Haven's Rest. "Status report," he said, his voice rusty from disuse but growing, stronger with each word. "All systems are coming online, Admiral," replied Engineer Nari, who had been in the chamber next to his. The awakening signal was strong and clear. "Our descendants have found the repository." Kang Wu walked to the facility's main viewing port and looked out at the surface of Haven's Rest. The world looked almost exactly as it had when they had gone to sleep. Their automated systems had maintained the terraforming, kept the atmosphere breathable, and preserved the infrastructure they would need upon awakening. "How many other facilities have responded to the signal?" he asked. Nari consulted a holographic display that had appeared beside her. 47 sites have confirmed awakening initiation. We estimate that within the next few days, over 2 million elder humans will be active again. On the other side of the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Commander Lim Ara emerged from her stasis chamber in a facility hidden beneath the ice cap of a world the current galactic maps called Frostholm. She had been a military strategist in the old empire, responsible for defending the outer territories from threats both known and unknown. "Ma'am," her aide reported as they both emerged from stasis. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive changes in galactic civilization. The galaxy is full of new species, new governments, new technologies." "Good," Lim Ara said. That was the plan. While we slept, the galaxy continued to grow and develop. Now we need to learn about these new civilizations and find a way to work with them. Dr. C.O. Dam awakened in a facility on the edge of a massive nebula. As the former head of the Elder Human Science Council, she immediately began reviewing the data that had accumulated during their long sleep. Automated sensors had been watching galactic development, recording the rise and fall of civilizations, tracking technological progress. "Fascinating," she said to her research team as they gathered around the data displays. "Our descendants not only reached space travel again, but they've made contact with dozens of other species. They've formed something called the Galactic Consortium. Are they ready?" asked Dr. Ko Ran, her chief assistant. "Ready to learn the truth about what's coming?" SEO Dam studied the data more carefully. "They've developed faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, and planetary communication networks. But more importantly, they've learned to cooperate with alien species. That's something we never mastered in our time." Back on Haven's Rest, Admiral Kang Wu was reviewing similar information. The elder humans had been powerful, but they had also been isolated. They had conquered worlds rather than making friends with other species. This new generation of humans seemed to have learned from their ancestors' mistakes. Admiral Nari called out, "We're receiving communications from the lunar repository. Our descendants are requesting contact." Kang Wu thought carefully about how to proceed. The young humans would be shocked to learn the truth about their heritage. The other galactic species would be even more shocked to discover that humanity was far older and more powerful than anyone had imagined. "Open a communication channel," he decided. "It's time to introduce ourselves." Commander Yun Bin was the first to receive the transmission. He was still on the lunar surface, coordinating the excavation and trying to manage the flood of reports coming in from across the galaxy. "Commander Yun Bin," the voice said in perfect modern Korean. "This is Admiral Kang Wu of the Elder Human Defense Force. We are ready to make contact." Yun Bin nearly dropped his communicator. The voice was definitely human, but there was something about it that suggested vast age and experience. "Who are you? Where are you transmitting from?" "We are your ancestors, awakening from stasis chambers hidden throughout the galaxy. I am transmitting from a world you call Haven's Rest, approximately 400 light-years from your current position. On Earth, Dr. Han Day and Dr. Park Mira were monitoring the communications from the Kepler Research Station. Their equipment was detecting dozens of new transmissions, all coming from previously unexplored regions of space. These signals are incredibly powerful," Park Mira observed. "They're using technology that's far beyond anything we have. But they're definitely human," Han Day confirmed. "The language patterns, the cultural references, even the sense of humor. These are our people." The first visual transmission came through an hour later. Admiral Kang Wu appeared on the screen, and despite his obvious age and the strange clothing he wore, his features were unmistakably human. Behind him, they could see technology that seemed like magic compared to anything in current use. "People of Earth," he said formally, "I bring greetings from the elder human civilization. We have watched over you from afar as you rediscovered the stars. Now it is time for us to work together again." The transmission was being received simultaneously by every major government on Earth and every human colony in space. The reaction was immediate and intense. Emergency sessions were called in the Human Colonial Council. Military commanders demanded to know if this was an invasion. Scientists wanted to know how the technology worked. Politicians worried about how the other galactic species would react. But the most important reaction came from the Galactic Consortium headquarters on Centauri Prime. Ambassador Park Hoon was in the middle of a routine diplomatic meeting when his aide rushed in with the news. "Sir, we're receiving reports of massive energy signatures throughout human space. Unknown ships are appearing near human colonies." "Unknown ships?" Park Hoon asked. "They claim to be human, but they're using technology that's completely beyond our current capabilities." The alien diplomats in the meeting began talking among themselves in worried tones. The Zephyrians, an ancient insect-like species, had sensors that could detect the energy signatures from across the galaxy. "These readings are impossible," the Zephyrian representative said. "No species in the galaxy has technology this advanced. Are the humans hiding their true capabilities?" Ambassador Park Hoon found himself in the awkward position of having to explain something he didn't understand himself. "I can assure you that the human government has no hidden technology. We're as surprised by these developments as you are." "Commander, Lim Ara's ship appeared in orbit around the consortium capital world 6 hours later. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, a crystalline vessel that seemed to bend light around itself. When she requested permission to land and meet with the consortium leadership, the request caused panic in the diplomatic corps. "They want to land here?" the Altarian ambassador asked. "With that ship? Do we have any idea what their intentions are?" Park Hoon made a decision that would change galactic history. "They're human. If they wanted to hurt us, they've certainly demonstrated that they have the power to do so. I say we hear what they have to say." The meeting that followed was unlike anything in galactic diplomatic history. Commander Lim Ara walked into the consortium chambers wearing clothing that seemed to be made of woven starlight, accompanied by technology that made the assembly hall's most advanced systems look primitive. "Honored representatives," she said, in perfect galactic standard, though it was clear that she was translating from some other language. "I am Commander Lim Ara of the Elder Human Civilization. We have come to warn you of a threat that approaches from beyond this galaxy." The chamber erupted in confused voices as representatives tried to understand what she was saying. The idea that humans had hidden colonies with advanced technology was shocking enough. The idea that these humans knew about threats from outside the galaxy was terrifying. "What kind of threat?" Park Hoon asked. "Entities that consume reality itself," Lim Ara said simply. "They destroyed our first empire 4 million years ago. We went into hiding to escape them, but they have now consumed the galaxy they moved to and are returning here." The silence that followed was complete. Every species in the consortium had myths about dark entities from the void between galaxies, but they had always assumed they were just stories. "How do we fight something like that?" the consortium president asked. "Together," Lim Ara said. "Elder humans, new humans, and all the species of this galaxy working as one. It's the only way any of us will survive." As the implications of her words sank in, representatives began to understand that everything they thought they knew about galactic civilization was about to change. The humans weren't newcomers to the galaxy. They were the returning elders, bringing with them knowledge of threats that no one else had ever imagined. The awakening was complete, but the real work was just beginning. Ambassador Park Hoon had been representing humanity in the Galactic Consortium for 5 years, but he had never been in a situation like this. The emergency session had been called when elder human ships began appearing in major star systems across the galaxy. Now he sat in the great chamber on Centauri Prime, surrounded by representatives from dozens of species, all of whom were looking at him with expressions ranging from confusion to fear to anger. Let me understand this correctly, said President Veloth, the Altarian leader of the consortium. His blue skin was darker than usual, a sign of stress in his species. You are claiming that these powerful beings who have suddenly appeared are your ancestors? Not claiming, Park Hoon said carefully. Stating as fact. The genetic tests confirm it. The language similarities confirm it. They are human. The Zephyrian representative clicked her mandibles together in agitation. This is impossible. Our records show that humans first achieved spaceflight only 300 years ago. You joined the consortium as a new species, seeking guidance and protection. That's what we thought too, Park Hoon admitted. We were wrong. Counselor Thrain of the Granite Clans, a rock-like being whose species was among the oldest in the consortium, spoke in his slow, grinding voice. If what you say is true, then humans have been deceiving the consortium since the day you joined. No deception was intended, Park Hoon said. We didn't know the truth ourselves until a few days ago. Commander Lim Ara had been standing quietly at the back of the chamber, but now she stepped forward. Her presence seemed to fill the room, and several representatives instinctively moved away from her. If I may address the assembly, she said politely. President Veloth looked uncomfortable, but nodded. You may speak. Thank you. I am Commander Lim Ara of the Elder Human Strategic Defense Force. I understand your confusion and concern. Let me explain what happened 4 million years ago. The chamber fell silent as she began to speak. Even the translator system seemed to strain to keep up with the concepts she was describing. The first human empire spanned this galaxy, she said. We had colonies on over 10,000 worlds. We thought we were the masters of known space. We were wrong. Holographic displays appeared in the air around her, showing star maps that none of them had ever seen before. The maps showed the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago, covered with human settlements and connected by travel routes. What happened to this empire? Asked the representative from Tau Ceti, an aquatic species that communicated through color changes on their skin. We encountered something from the void between galaxies, Lim Ara said. Entities that existed outside normal space-time. They consumed not just matter and energy, but the fundamental information that makes up reality itself. The holographic displays changed, showing battles between human fleets and something that seemed to twist space around itself. The images were hard to look at, as if they hurt the mind to process. We fought them for 1,000 years, Lim Ara continued. We lost. Our choice was to fight to the last human and let these entities consume our entire civilization, or to sacrifice our empire to save the galaxy. How does sacrificing your empire save the galaxy? President Veloth asked. These entities are drawn to large concentrations of conscious beings. A galactic empire full of billions of humans was like a beacon to them. So we dismantled our empire, scattered our people, and went into stasis. Without a large civilization to attract them, the entities moved on to other galaxies. The Zephyrian representative was studying the holographic data with her compound eyes. These readings suggest that your technology was far beyond anything we have today. Why did you lose? Because we fought alone, Lim Ara said simply. We were arrogant. We thought human technology and human determination were enough. We never learned to work with other species the way you have here in the consortium. Park Hoon began to understand what she was saying. That's why you placed humans on Earth. To let us develop alongside other species, to learn cooperation instead of conquest. Exactly. Lim Ara confirmed. We needed humans who could build alliances, who could work as part of a galactic community. Our descendants have done that. You have built something we never could. Counselor Thrain spoke again. You said these entities moved on to other galaxies. Are they gone forever? Lim Ara's expression grew grim. No. Our long-range sensors indicate that they have consumed the galaxy they moved to. They are returning, and this time they will find a galaxy full of diverse civilizations working together. That gives us a chance we never had before. The chamber erupted in panicked voices as representatives began to understand the implications. The threat that had destroyed the most powerful civilization in galactic history was coming back, and this time there would be nowhere to run. Order! President Veloth called out. Order! Commander Lim Ara! What are you proposing? An alliance, she said. Elder humans, new humans, and all the species of the consortium, working together with our combined knowledge and technology. It's the only way any of us will survive. The draconian representative, a tall reptilian being, hissed softly. Why should we trust you? You've been hiding in the shadows for millions of years. How do we know this isn't some elaborate human scheme to take control of the galaxy? Before Lim Ara could respond, another voice spoke from the chamber entrance. Because we could have taken control already, if that's what we wanted. Everyone turned to see Admiral Kang Wu entering the chamber. His ship had just arrived in orbit, and he had transported down to join the discussion. His presence was even more imposing than Lim Ara's, carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets among the stars. Admiral, President Veloth said nervously, welcome to the consortium chambers. Thank you, Kang Wu said. I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but I felt it was important to address your concerns directly. He walked to the center of the chamber, and holographic displays appeared around him showing elder human ships positioned near major consortium worlds. As you can see, we have the capability to take control of any world in the galaxy, he said. Our technology is thousands of years ahead of yours. Our ships are undetectable when we choose them to be. If we wanted to conquer the galaxy, we would have done it already. Then what do you want? Asked the representative from Rigel, a crystalline being whose species communicated through musical tones. Partnership, Kang Wu said. We want to work with you to defend this galaxy from a threat that none of us can face alone. We bring knowledge and technology. You bring diversity of thought and experience in cooperation. Together, we might succeed where we failed before. Dr. Seo Dam materialized in the chamber through elder human transportation technology, carrying data crystals that contained information beyond current galactic understanding. I have brought complete technical specifications for the entities we will face, she announced. Our scientists recorded everything during our previous encounters. This information is freely available to all consortium species. The chamber fell silent as representatives tried to process what they were being offered. The most advanced technological knowledge in galactic history, given freely to help defend against a common threat. Park Hoon stood up. The human delegation supports this alliance. We've seen the evidence of what's coming. We've seen the power of elder human technology. More importantly, we've seen their commitment to protecting all life in this galaxy. One by one, other representatives began to speak in support of the alliance. The Altarians, despite their initial suspicion, recognized the logic of cooperation. The Zephyrians were fascinated by the technological possibilities. Even the cautious Granite clans agreed that the threat was too great to face alone. But it was Counselor Thrain who spoke the words that would define the new era. We have spent millions of years believing that we were the elder races of this galaxy. Now we discover that we are all children, protected by guardians who sacrificed everything to keep us safe. It is time for the children to grow up and stand beside their elders. The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Consortium would ally with the elder humans to prepare for the coming threat. But more than that, they would work together to build a new kind of galactic civilization, one based on cooperation rather than conquest. As the session ended, Park Hoon approached Lim Ara and Kang Wu. What happens now? Now we prepare, Kang Wu said. We share our knowledge, combine our technologies, and train together. The entities are still several years away, but we need to be ready. And after we face this threat? Park Hoon asked. Lim? Ara smiled. The first time any of them had seen her show such warmth. After we face this threat, we build the galaxy our ancestors dreamed of. A place where all conscious beings can thrive together among the stars. The age of human isolation was over. The age of galactic cooperation was about to begin. And somewhere, in the dark between galaxies, ancient entities that consumed reality itself were drawing closer to a galaxy that would not run from them this time. The transition was not as smooth as anyone had hoped. Across the galaxy, elder human ships appeared at worlds that had been settled by other species for thousands of years, politely but firmly announcing that these had once been human colonies. The reaction was predictably chaotic. Captain Li Tay found himself in the middle of one such situation on Kepler 442b, a world the Altarians had colonized 800 years ago. The Altarian governor was not pleased when Fleet Commander Bay arrived with a small flotilla of elder human vessels. "This is our world," Governor Thelen declared during the tense meeting in the colonial capital. "My people have lived here for over 30 generations. We have built cities, raised families, created an entire civilization here." Bay In, dressed in the flowing robes that elder humans seemed to prefer, remained perfectly calm. "We understand. Governor, we have no intention of displacing your people. We simply wish to reclaim the facilities that we left here." "What facilities?" Li Tay asked. He was serving as a mediator, trying to help both sides understand each other. Bay inactivated a holographic display that showed the planet as it had been 4 million years ago. Ancient human cities were marked across the continents, along with vast underground complexes that the current colonists had never discovered. The Altarian settlements are built directly above 3 of our major data repositories, Bayin explained. "We need access to those facilities to prepare for the coming threat." Governor Thelen's blue skin darkened with stress. "You want us to evacuate our cities so you can dig up ancient ruins?" "Not evacuate," Bayin corrected. "Share. We propose joint access to the facilities. Your people can continue to live and work here while we reactivate the ancient technology below ground." Dr. Choi Jun had been studying elder human society for weeks since first contact, trying to understand how their culture had developed during millions of years of isolation. What impressed him most was their patience and their genuine desire to avoid conflict. The elder humans could simply take what they wanted, he pointed out during a private meeting with the governor. Their technology is so far beyond ours that resistance would be meaningless. The fact that they're asking for permission shows good faith. Similar scenes were playing out on dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy. On some planets, the local governments welcomed the elder humans as honored ancestors. On others, like Kepler 442b, there was suspicion and fear. A few worlds even attempted to resist, deploying their military forces against the elder human ships. Those attempts at resistance ended quickly and without bloodshed. Elder human defensive technology was so advanced that conventional weapons simply had no effect. But rather than retaliating, the elder humans would simply wait until the local authorities were ready to talk. Dr. C.O. Dam was working with a team of consortium scientists on Rigel Prime, sharing technological knowledge. That would have taken centuries to develop independently. The crystalline Rigelians were particularly good at understanding the mathematical principles behind elder human technology. Your energy manipulation systems operate on quantum principles we've only theorized about, Dr. Zenith, the lead Rigelian scientist, observed. His crystal body flickered with colors that indicated excitement. How did you develop these concepts? Time, Seodam said simply. We had millions of years to develop our understanding of the universe. But we also had the advantage of necessity. When you're facing entities that can manipulate reality itself, you learn to think beyond conventional physics. The real breakthrough came when Dr. Koran demonstrated how elder human technology could be integrated with current galactic systems. She worked with teams from every major species, showing them how to upgrade their existing technology rather than replacing it entirely. This isn't about us giving you our technology, she explained during a joint research session. It's about combining our knowledge to create something new, something better than either of us could build alone. On Earth, the political situation was even more complex. The discovery that humanity had ancient roots throughout the galaxy had triggered massive changes in how humans saw themselves and their place in the universe. Commander Yun Bin had been promoted to admiral and put in charge of coordinating between elder human forces and modern human military units. The cultural differences were significant, despite their shared genetic heritage. They don't think like us, he reported to Earth Command. 4 million years of separate development has created very different approaches to problem solving. They're more patient, more focused on long-term consequences. We're more adaptable, more willing to take risks. Are those differences a problem? Asked General Park, the head of Human Colonial Defense. Just the opposite, Yun Bin said. The differences are what make us stronger together. They have the knowledge and experience. We have the flexibility and innovation. The combination is incredibly powerful. The real test came when the first joint human fleet was assembled. Elder human ships working alongside modern human vessels, with crews that included both branches of humanity. Admiral Kang Wu commanded the combined fleet, but he made sure that modern human officers held key positions throughout the command structure. We are not returning to reclaim leadership, he explained to his mixed crew during their first joint mission. We are returning to serve alongside you. The galaxy has changed, and we must change with it. The mission was to investigate reports of unusual activity in the Outer Rim territories. Long-range sensors had detected energy signatures that matched the entities they were preparing to face. If the reports were accurate, they might be facing their first encounter with the reality-consuming beings that had destroyed the first human empire. Captain Yun Bin commanded one of the modern human ships in the fleet. As they approached the Outer Rim, he found himself working closely with Commander Na-Ri, an elder human engineer who had been adapting ancient technology for use on modern ships. Your people's approach to engineering is fascinating, Na-Ri told him as they reviewed the ship's modified systems. You build things to be repaired and upgraded. We built things to last forever. Both approaches have merit. What happens when we encounter these entities? Yun Bin asked. Are we ready? Nari was quiet for a moment before answering. We are more ready than we were 4 million years ago. Whether that will be enough remains to be seen. The fleet arrived at the investigation site to find something that chilled them all to the bone. An entire star system was simply gone. Not destroyed, not collapsed into a black hole, but gone as if it had never existed. Space-time itself seemed thinner in the area, and their instruments could barely function. This is what we're facing, Admiral Kang Wu announced to the combined fleet. The entities don't just destroy matter and energy. They consume the fundamental information that makes reality possible. Dr. Choi Jun, who had joined the mission as a cultural liaison, stared at the empty space where a star system should have been. How do you fight something that can erase reality itself? By being more real than they are, said Dr. Seo Dam, who was monitoring the situation from the flagship. By existing so completely, so thoroughly, that we become impossible to erase. The fleet returned to Consortium space with new urgency. The entities were closer than they had thought, and their power was exactly as terrifying as the elder humans. Remembered. But they had also learned something important. The combined fleets of elder and modern humans, working with technology from across the galaxy, created a kind of reality anchor that the entities seemed unable to affect. We have a chance, Admiral Kang Wu announced to the gathered fleet commanders. Not a guarantee, but a chance. We are stronger together than any of us imagined. As word of the mission spread throughout the galaxy, the last resistance to the elder human integration began to fade. Species that had been suspicious realized that the threat was real and immediate. The time for politics and territorial disputes had passed. Council Prime Seo Dam addressed the Galactic Consortium in a historic session that was broadcast to every inhabited world. We stand at the threshold of a new age, not the return of the elder humans to power, but the birth of a truly galactic civilization, one where the wisdom of age combines with the energy of youth, where the knowledge of humanity merges with the diversity of all conscious beings. The reckoning was complete. The galaxy had accepted that humans were both its newest and oldest citizens. Now came the hard part, preparing for a war unlike anything any of them had ever imagined against enemies that could unmake reality itself. But for the first time in 4 million years, humanity was not alone in that fight. Dr. Han Day had thought he understood the scale of the universe, but standing in the elder human deep space observatory on Haven's Rest, he realized how small his understanding had been. The facility was the size of a small city, built into the planet's crust and extending deep underground. Its sensors could detect events happening in other galaxies. The readings are getting stronger, elder scientist Ko Ran reported, her fingers moving across control surfaces that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch. The entities have consumed the Andromeda equivalent in the target galaxy. They're beginning to move toward the galactic rim. The holographic display in the center of the observatory showed a 3-dimensional map of local galactic space. Dark patches marked areas where the entities had already passed through, leaving behind voids where reality itself had been erased. How long do we have? Admiral Kang Wu asked. He had come to the observatory as soon as the new readings came in. Based on their current movement patterns, approximately 18 months before they reach the outer territories of our galaxy, Ko Ran replied. 24 months before they reach the core systems. Han Day studied the data streams flowing around him. Even with all his experience analyzing quantum signatures, the readings from the entities were difficult to process. They seemed to exist, partially outside normal space-time, making conventional sensors almost useless. What exactly are these things? He asked. Koran brought up a new set of displays, showing data that the elder humans had gathered during their previous encounters millions of years ago. We call them devourers, but that's not really accurate. They don't consume matter or energy, in any conventional sense. The displays showed encounters between elder human fleets and something that was hard to look at directly. The entities appeared as dark spaces in reality, voids that seemed to pull at the mind of anyone observing them. They consume information, Koran continued, the fundamental quantum information that makes reality coherent. When they pass through a region of space, they don't just destroy what's there. They make it so that it never existed in the first place. That's impossible, Hyundai said automatically, then caught himself. I mean, theoretically impossible, according to our understanding of physics. Our understanding was also incomplete, Admiral Kang Wu said grimly. We learned that the hard way 4 million years ago. Dr. Seo Dam materialized in the observatory through the Elder Human Transportation System. She had been coordinating research efforts across the galaxy, working with scientists from every major species to understand the threat they were facing. The Consortium Council is demanding answers, she reported. Some species are beginning to panic. The Draconian Empire is mobilizing their entire fleet. The Zephyrians are talking about evacuation to other galaxies. Evacuation won't work, Koran said. The entities move faster than any ship we've ever built. If we run, they'll catch us between galaxies where there's no support infrastructure. Han Dai was studying the historical data from the elder humans' previous encounters. You said you fought them for 1,000 years. What worked? What didn't work? Admiral Kang Wu's expression became haunted. Nothing worked. Conventional weapons had no effect. Energy weapons passed right through them. Even our most advanced reality manipulation technology only slowed them down. Then how did you escape? Han Dai asked. We didn't escape, Seo Dam said quietly. We sacrificed our entire civilization to convince them there was nothing here worth consuming. When our empire collapsed, when our worlds went dark, they moved on to find more active sources of consciousness. The observatory fell silent as the implications sank in. The entities were attracted to large concentrations of conscious beings, drawn to the quantum signatures of active minds. The current galactic civilization, with billions of thinking beings spread across thousands of worlds, would be irresistible to them. But we've learned something new, Koran said, activating another set of displays. The joint missions with modern human and consortium forces have shown us something we never discovered before. The displays showed data from the recent fleet exercises, where elder human ships had worked alongside vessels from other species. The quantum signatures were different from anything in the historical records. When different types of consciousness work together, when they truly cooperate instead of just coexisting, they create quantum interference patterns that the entities seem unable to process, Koran explained. Hyundai leaned forward, his scientific instincts taking over despite the magnitude of the threat. You're saying that cooperation creates a form of quantum encryption? In a sense, yes. Individual consciousness generates quantum signatures that the entities can track and consume. But when multiple different types of consciousness are working in harmony, their combined signatures create something new, something that registers as chaos to the entity's senses. Admiral Kang Wu began to understand the implications. That's why we failed before. We fought alone, with only human consciousness patterns. The entities could read us, predict us, consume us. But now we have dozens of species, Hundreds of different consciousness types, all working together, Seodam added. If we can maintain that unity, that true cooperation, we might be able to hide our galactic civilization in plain sight. The plan that emerged from their discussions was ambitious beyond anything ever attempted in galactic history. Every inhabited world would need to participate. Every species would need to contribute their unique consciousness patterns to the collective defense. Dr. Choi Jun joined them via quantum communication from the consortium capital. He had been working with diplomatic teams to coordinate the response. Across all member species, the initial reaction is mixed, he reported. Some species understand the concept immediately. Others are struggling with the idea of true mental cooperation. The Granite clans are particularly resistant to the idea of consciousness sharing. They don't have to share consciousness, Koran clarified. They just need to work together in a way that creates quantum harmony. Think of it as a galactic orchestra, where every species plays their own instrument but contributes to a unified symphony. The first test of the concept came when a small group of entities was detected approaching a remote star system on the Galactic Rim. Instead of evacuating the system, they decided to try the cooperative defense strategy. Ships from 12 different species converged on the threatened system. Elder human vessels provided the coordination technology, while each species contributed their unique capabilities. The Zephyrians provided swarm intelligence, the Altarians contributed their mathematical precision, the Draconians added their tactical expertise, and humans provided the bridge between all the different consciousness types. Commander Yoon Bin found himself commanding a mixed crew unlike anything in military history. His bridge included beings from 6 different species, all working together to maintain the quantum harmony that would supposedly protect them from the entities. Contacts detected, his Zephyrian sensor operator reported. 3 entities approaching from the outer system. On the main screen, they could see the approaching voids in space-time. They looked like holes in reality itself, dark spaces that seemed to pull at the mind of anyone who looked at them too long. All ships maintain harmony. Protocols. Admiral Kang Wu's voice came through the communication system. Remember, we're not trying to fight them. We're trying to become invisible to them. The entities passed through the system like a wave of nothingness. Ships that maintained proper consciousness harmony remained undetected, invisible to the entities' senses. But one vessel, a draconian heavy cruiser whose crew couldn't maintain the required cooperation, was spotted immediately. The entity moved toward the cruiser like a predator sensing prey. But before it could reach the ship, the other vessels in the fleet moved to surround it, their combined consciousness patterns creating a protective barrier. The entity paused, confused by the conflicting signals it was receiving. For a moment, it seemed to consider the situation. Then, unable to process the quantum chaos created by true cooperation, it moved on toward the galactic rim and disappeared into dark space. It worked. Yoon Bin breathed. It actually worked. But the celebration was short-lived. Koran's analysis of the encounter revealed a troubling fact. The entities were learning. Each encounter taught them more about the defense strategy. They would adapt, evolve, become more sophisticated in their hunting methods. This buys us time, Admiral Kang Wu announced to the fleet. But not much time. We need to prepare for a larger confrontation, and we need to prepare quickly. Back at the observatory, Han Dai was working with Ko Ran to analyze the data from the encounter. The cooperation strategy worked, but it required perfect harmony between multiple species. Any breakdown in cooperation, any return to old patterns, of competition and mistrust would make the entire galaxy visible to the entities again. We're asking every conscious being in the galaxy to work together perfectly, Hyundai observed. That's never happened before in galactic history. No, Koran agreed, but it's also never been necessary before. The entities are forcing us to evolve, to become something new. Either we learn to truly cooperate as a galactic civilization, or we cease to exist entirely. The message went out to every world in the gala. The day the Devourers arrived in force, every conscious being in the galaxy felt it. It was like a cold wind blowing through space-time itself, carrying with it the promise of absolute ending. Not death, but something worse, the complete erasure of existence itself. Admiral Yun Bin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Unity, watching as his sensors tried to process what they were seeing. The entities had come not as individual hunters, but as a vast wave of nothingness that stretched across the entire galactic rim. "Fleet status report," he requested, though his voice was steady despite the magnitude of what they faced. "All ships report ready," his communications officer replied. It was a Zephyrian whose compound eyes could process the complex data streams needed to coordinate the massive combined fleet. 12,000 vessels from 47 species, all maintaining harmony protocols. Beside him, Elder Human Admiral Kang Wu monitored the ancient sensors that could detect the entity's true nature. "They've learned from our previous encounters," he reported grimly. "They're not advancing in small groups anymore. This is a coordinated assault designed to overwhelm our cooperation strategies." In the galactic core, Dr. Park Mira and Elder, scientist Ko-Ran, worked frantically in the combined research center that had been established on the consortium capital world. Representatives from every major species were contributing their unique understanding of consciousness and reality to the defense effort. "The quantum harmony field is holding," Ko-Ran reported, "but the strain is enormous. We're asking billions of beings to maintain perfect cooperation across thousands of light years. The slightest breakdown could expose entire sectors to the entities." Dr. Han Day, now serving as the chief coordinator of consciousness patterns, watched the galactic display with growing concern. "We're getting reports of harmony failures in the outer colonies. Fear is breaking down the cooperation. Some species are reverting to defensive isolation. The entities sensed these breakdowns immediately. Like sharks smelling blood in the water, they moved toward any region where the galactic unity wavered. Entire star systems began to vanish as the Devourers found consciousness patterns they could process and consume. "We're losing the outer rim," Ambassador Park Hoon reported from his position coordinating with civilian governments. 3 systems have gone dark in the last hour. It was Council Prime Essio Dam who made the decision that would define the battle. "All remaining forces fall back to the core formation. We cannot protect the entire galaxy with partial cooperation. Better to save what we can with perfect unity than lose everything to imperfect harmony." The retreat was the most complex military maneuver in galactic history. 12,000 ships from dozens of species, each with their own unique consciousness patterns, all working together to maintain the quantum harmony that kept them invisible to the entities. It should have been impossible, but fear of extinction drove them to achieve the impossible. Captain Lee Tay commanded one of the evacuation fleets, rescuing populations from worlds that could no longer maintain harmony. His ship carried beings from 16 different species, all of whom had to work together despite their fear and cultural differences. Refugee ship Harmony reports consciousness breakdown. his tactical officer announced. "They're becoming visible. To the entities." Li Tay didn't hesitate. "All ships, emergency harmony boost. Surround the harmony and extend our consciousness field to cover them." It was a risky maneuver that required perfect coordination between multiple species, but it worked. The refugee ship disappeared back into the quantum static created by true cooperation, safe from the entity's senses. Dr. Choi Jun was working on the most ambitious part of the defense plan, the consciousness amplification network. Using elder human technology combined with innovations from every member species, they were creating a galaxy-wide system that would allow perfect cooperation between beings who had never even met. "The network is at 60% coverage," he reported to the command center. "We need more time to complete the connections." "Time we don't have," Admiral Kong Wu replied, watching as the entities closed in on their defensive positions. "They're adapting faster than we anticipated. They're learning to read our harmony patterns." That's when Dr. C.O. Dam made a discovery that changed everything. "They're not just learning to read our patterns," she announced. "They're learning to cooperate with each other. The entities are forming their own version of consciousness harmony. The implications hit everyone at once. If the entities could achieve their own version of quantum cooperation, they would become completely unstoppable. No amount of galactic unity would be enough to hide from them." "We need a new strategy," Yun Bin said. "Something they can't adapt to." It was engineer Na Ri who provided the answer. She had been working with modern human engineers to understand the differences between elder human technology and current galactic systems. "What if we stop trying to hide from them?" she suggested. "Explain," Admiral Kang Wu requested. "The entities consume individual consciousness patterns because they can process and understand them," Na Ri continued. "But what if we created a consciousness pattern so complex, so fundamentally chaotic, that it would be impossible for them to process?" Dr. Koran understood immediately. Not hiding from them, but overwhelming them with information they can't consume. The plan that emerged was even more ambitious than anything they had attempted before. Instead of maintaining harmony to hide from the entities, they would create the most complex consciousness pattern in the history of the universe. Every thinking being in the galaxy, working together not in harmony, but in beautiful, chaotic diversity. "It's the opposite of what we've been doing," Hyundai realized. "Instead of everyone thinking alike, we need everyone to think differently, but in a coordinated way." The consciousness amplification network was reprogrammed for this new strategy. Instead of creating unity, it would create complexity. Every species would contribute their unique way of thinking, their individual perspective on reality, their own approach to consciousness itself. When the entities finally reached the galactic core, they found something unprecedented: a consciousness pattern so complex, so richly diverse, that it was like trying to consume a living symphony. The beings of the galaxy were thinking together while remaining completely individual, creating a tapestry of consciousness that was impossible to unravel. The Devourers paused, confused by what they were encountering. They had consumed galaxies, full of unified civilizations, absorbed countless individual consciousness patterns, but they had never encountered organized complexity on this scale. Admiral Yun Bin watched from his flagship as the entities struggled to process what they were encountering. "Are they retreating?" "No," Ko-Ran replied from her monitoring station. "They're changing. The complexity of our consciousness pattern is forcing them to evolve." The entities began to transform before their eyes. Instead of being voids in reality, they started to develop structure, pattern, even a form of consciousness themselves. The organized chaos of galactic cooperation was teaching them what it meant to think, rather than simply consume. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Seodam announced. From the research center, "The entities are developing individual consciousness patterns. They're becoming beings rather than forces of nature." For the first time in millions of years, communication was established between the galaxy and the devourers. The entities now, possessing something resembling individual minds, reached out through the consciousness network with what could only be described as curiosity. The first contact was handled by Dr. Choi Jun, whose experience with languages and cultures made him the natural choice for this impossible diplomatic mission. The communication came not as words but as direct consciousness transfer, thoughts and concepts flowing between species that had never shared anything but mutual destruction. "They're not evil," Choi Jun reported, his voice filled with wonder. "They're just hungry. They consume consciousness because it's the only way they know how to experience existence. They've never learned to create their own thoughts." The revelation changed everything. The entities weren't invaders or destroyers. They were incomplete beings, driven by an unconscious need for the very thing that the galaxy's diverse civilizations had in abundance: the ability to think, to feel, to be conscious. Council Prime Sao Dam made the decision that would reshape the universe. "We offer them partnership instead of prey." The negotiation that followed was unlike anything in the history of consciousness. Using the amplification network, every species in the galaxy contributed to a collective offer. Instead of consuming existing consciousness, the entities could learn to create their own by working with the galactic civilizations. Elder Human Admiral Kang Wu worked with modern human Admiral Yun Bin to establish the framework for this unprecedented alliance. "We teach them to think for themselves," Kang Wu proposed. "In exchange, they help us understand the nature of consciousness itself." Engineer Nari and her modern human counterparts developed the technology that would make it possible. Consciousness-sharing devices that would allow the entities to experience individual thought without consuming the thinker. It was like teaching someone to appreciate music by letting them hear it rather than by destroying the instruments. The first entity,